You become rich by solving a rich man's problem, I'd like to say. I had my best acquisition rate LinkedIn cold DMs.
I saw something on Instagram yesterday, and it was like a picture and then text on top and says, I will make money because I am insane. And I was like,
literally, you have to be crazy. Failure, stand up, try again. Failure, stand up, try again. And I said to myself, if I was to fail with this person, could we still build something else? And the answer was yes.
I have struggled with skin concerns of my own. I used to have pretty bad acne, believe it or not, and we're gonna add some pictures here so that you can see. And having experienced that journey myself, that is what inspired and led me to grow and start Beauty Square, because I understand the emotional and the mental roller coaster that not having a skin at its best can really take you through. And we wanted to be able to hold people's hands throughout this journey of being able to get into a skin where they can feel and be more confident in. Beauty Square is a proud sponsor of this podcast, and we are a retail cosmetic business where we offer skincare solutions in terms of products. So we have skincare, hair care, body care, and fragrance for both men and women, and we retail from your TikTok favorites to your cult favorites to the products that we've tried and tested, and we know that we're going to help you with getting your skin from point A to point B. Then we also have our sister brand called Sage Skin, where we do the same thing of helping our clients achieve the skin of their dreams through services. And these are treatment facials like chemical peels, microneedling, algae peels, all kinds of treatments. And we also have supplementary services like body scrubs, waxes, and massages. Our wax tacticians are really good, and we have amazing packages as well that we put here on the screen. Please patronize our businesses so that we can keep bringing you Founder Diaries, and you can use the code FOUNDER10 on the Beauty Square website, beautysquareke.co, to save some coins and let them know that we sent you. Thank you for tuning in. Hi, and welcome to episode 1 of season 2 of Founder Diaries. Thank you so much for being here, and we really appreciate all the support in season 1. Please make sure that you're subscribing on whatever platform that you're listening to this on or watching on. We're on both audio and visual platforms. And I want to take a moment to thank our host and sponsor, Saruva, for having us here. Now, on today's episode, I'm excited to have her here. She's one of the names that very many people submitted when I was asking, who do you want to see on the podcast? And I'm going to let her introduce herself.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So my name is Michelle Watiki, and I am a co-founder at a company called Duck. So what we do at Duck is we essentially take data from massive retailers or even medium-sized retailers. We take this data and then we provide it back to the suppliers, the manufacturers. And the reason is because the manufacturers want to know how well they're doing in that retail store so that they are able to essentially produce the best products for their customers, distribute to the right stores as well. You might be selling very well in one region of Kenya, but the other region you're not moving product as much. And you don't have this information. So when you are kind of doing your strategy planning, you really struggle without knowing kind of what is going on in that specific store at that specific time.
Yeah.
So we are making that data available to manufacturers. Yeah.
Okay, I'm curious, what kind of data is this? Like when they're looking at the data, what is some of these types of data?
Yeah, so we plug into point of sale systems primarily.
Okay.
So think of a retailer that has a like a chip and pin card scanner.
Mm-hmm.
So we plug into that software, and then that tells us how much they paid, what was in that basket, what were the items they bought, and it actually helps us build. It helps us build a profile of the kind of customer that's making that purchase. So, for example, if you, Yvonne, go shopping every Tuesday and you buy milk and bread, the manufacturer of the milk company can then say, okay, on Tuesdays, I need to target Yvonne because I know she's going to be there buying milk and bread. Therefore, I might do a 2-for-1, or I might partner up with the bread company and then do an offer that way.
Bundle.
Yeah.
Interesting. Are you able to pick up some data on consumer, like other data on consumer behavior from this data?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we are currently piloting in the reward space. So think of your Quickmart card, your Nivus card. So essentially, where are people getting their points from when they're shopping? Because when you register for these cards, you actually give a lot of data away as to who you are. So you put your name, you put if you're male or female, you might even put your age, etc. etc. And again, it goes back to customer segmentation, which is who is my customer? Who does what, like if I'm selling a product, what kind of person does my product resonate with the most?
Yeah.
And that way I can actually target my efforts towards that customer. And also it might reveal to me a customer segment that I don't resonate with. So when I'm doing my R&D as a brand, I'd be like, okay, I've not yet touched the over 40s who live in Kilaleshwa. How do I target them? What do they normally buy? Should I then branch into that side of manufacturing?
Wow, I have so many questions. Let me try to reel it in. So one, I'm curious, who is your target a customer as Dark Analytics? But also, like as you're talking, this sounds like things I want in my business. So I'm curious if you do have a segment for us, small to medium businesses, because I think we need that data even more, definitely, if I'm to say so. Yeah, you can tell me that.
Yeah. So my target customer is manufacturers. So we started off solving this problem for large manufacturers of fast-moving consumer goods. And that's because their products are literally flying off the shelf every other minute. And also their prices fluctuate very frequently. So as an example, the price of cooking oil can change up to every 2 days on the shop floor, right? So you can imagine how much of a pain that is, having to kind of process that change in if it's 2 shillings more or 2 shillings less. And those small increments actually have a massive effect on their margins because FMCG goods have very, very low margins. For every bottle you sell, you're only making, 50 shillings, let's say. So you need to sell a lot of bottles, hence why they're fast moving. So for them, they are making these decisions on a daily basis and they need this data. Otherwise, they're basing their strategy on experience. But if you can imagine if someone is sick or if someone is off or maybe because a lot of these companies are also family companies that have grown over the years. Once they hand over the baton to the younger generation, what did the younger generation do? But luckily for us, in modern trade, all of this data is recorded. All of this data sits within the retailers. Now it's just a matter of making sense of the data.
Yeah.
And the gap that we found was there's a ton of data in Kenya, in Africa. Not many people know how to make sense of it so that it's actionable. And it's not just another slideshow or a report or even just a static dashboard that just sits there. You pull up, you're like, oh, okay, this moved here. Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
What you should be asking is, what does this mean for tomorrow or next week or even next quarter? And yeah, so I'd probably say in the space of kind of smaller businesses, we do a bit of like consulting work with them as well. Like we are always trying to learn about the Kenyan consumer, how they're buying, what they're shopping, the difference now between the millennials handing over to the Gen Zs. The Gen Zs are buying very differently to millennials and to boomers, etc. So we're always kind of keen to also hear from smaller retailers and also support them when it comes to using that info, because someone like, let's say, Quickmart or Carrefour, they're a huge company. They have departments that do this, right? And they also don't manufacture the product. But let me use your business as an example. You bring in your product, you do D2C, so direct to consumer. There's a lot you can do internally as yourself to help you when it comes to as I said, customer segmentation, planning your demand as well. If you were to open up a new store in Nairobi, would you know where you should be opening up that store, etc. And a lot of that information just sits with your customers. Are you getting repeat customers? Are they coming back to you for refills, or are your customers people who just chase promotions? Do they wait for promotions? And the biggest thing we're dealing with right now is stockouts. How do stockouts affect your bottom line, which is crazy? So a typical retailer would assume that a stockout is a really good thing, like people are buying, things are off my shelf. What they don't see is how much it's costing them from a customer perspective, because Kenyans are very prone to brand switching. If I walk in and I can't find what I need from that brand, I will go to another brand that is available to me. Doesn't mean I don't like your brand, but there's no way I'm going to trek back into town in all this traffic to look for this same item again, right? So you've already lost my trust as a customer and you've broken down the loyalty, but then you spent so much money on that promotion, on that marketing budget, and just by not being in stock and knowing that this many people was going to buy my product, you lose a lot of, I would say, your intended customers for that promotion. Yeah.
All right, before we come back to dark analytics, I want to take it a few years back.
Yeah.
To how you ended up here. So I was doing, some research before the episode, and I saw you worked at Rolls-Royce. Actually, so I ever worked there, I would be introducing myself as hi. I used to work at Rolls-Royce.
I actually don't like talking. Oh no, I'm joking. It's something I'm super proud about. I just get super shy, I think, because I'm just not used to it. It's weird because the city I lived in the UK, like 50% of the population worked in Rolls-Royce. So it was very normal for us. Like it wasn't like some badge of honor. But I didn't realize how much of an accolade it was until I left that environment. I joined a new environment. So now I do wear it like proudly.
Because it's a very premium brand. I'm curious, what are some of the lessons or the big takeaways that you took from working there? Or maybe even some things that, because you were in the culture, felt like really normal. Then you left and you're like, wait a minute, this is different.
That's an interesting question. So just for some background, I knew I wanted to become an engineer. So my background is in engineering first and foremostly. I did a bachelor's in chemical engineering, a master's in advanced chemical engineering. And as you can imagine, I became a chemical engineer. And I ended up in one of the biggest companies. And Rolls-Royce, actually, they don't make cars. So there's two Rolls-Royces. There's the car manufacturer that's owned by a German brand, and then there's the official Rolls-Royce. So they sold off the car division in the 1990s. Yeah, so Rolls-Royce is actually in power propulsion. So they are in the space of jet engines. So if you go to any kind of Boeing plane, chances are it's a Rolls-Royce engine. They also do engines for like large trains and stuff. And they do some work in the defense sector as well. But people are always like, could you get me a discount on a Rolls-Royce? I'm like, no, that is not my company. I'm so sorry to disappoint you. But yeah, so when I was younger, I was kind of focused. I was like, yeah, I want to become a chemical engineer. And I did like lots of different internships. I did some in finance, for example, didn't like it, went back to engineering. And my first job was as a chemical engineer. And I was quite lucky because I joined the company as an intern, and then I kind of changed my internship into a graduate program. So if they like you, they definitely keep you because of the money they took to train you. And I guess my first job was quite technical. When you're a graduate, you rotate in different departments until you find the department that kind of fits you. And this was during the pandemic. So I was a pandemic graduate. So when I joined, people were cutting jobs. People were getting fired. Companies were closing departments. But I was so lucky to have that job kind of already secured in one of the biggest companies in the UK. So I joined as a fresh graduate. I was really excited to like do new things. And then I think 9 to 5 just kind of humbles you. 9 to 5 really humbles you because you need to get into a routine. You need to learn how to work with people who are a lot older than you. And in my case, I was kind of youngest, one of very, very few females, and most of the times the only Black person in the department as well. So you kind of get some like cultural clashes where I was also adjusting to different people, different cultures, I call them ways of working. It's like when you don't get a job and the company says, oh, you're not a cultural fit. Now I get what they mean by cultural fit. It's a massive thing in the UK and the US. And I think for me, one of the things that drove me to kind of leave the space was I just didn't feel like it was my culture. And I wanted to make my own culture as opposed to someone telling me this is the way it is and this is the way it's going to be. Deal with it. But overall, it was an amazing experience, and it taught me a lot in terms of growing up, in terms of managing, even in terms of like governance and stuff. Engineering is a very textbook kind of subject. There's a way of doing things, and you follow this process, and sometimes the process is broken, and that's where I kind of thrived the most. When I spotted broken processes, I was like, I want to fix this, let me fix this. Like, no, you're too junior, but I really want to fix this.
Founder symptoms.
Right? You just become a fixer. Like I don't describe myself as an engineer anymore or as a founder. I just say I'm a fixer. I see a problem and I fix it, regardless of in what capacity, whether as an employee or as someone who's running my own thing. On a daily basis, I just fix problems when I see them. But being an entrepreneur gave me more flexibility to do so.
So how long did you work there?
So I was there in total for 5 years. So some of it, so the start of it was as an intern, went back to do my master's, and then I came back as a full-term graduate, finished the graduate scheme, and then I onboarded now as like a full-time employee. Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that I also saw while I was doing research on you, because I saw that you bought a house quite early.
I did.
Walk us through that process. What was the reasoning, why, and kind of how you landed at that, and even also how you financed it, because houses are not...
Definitely. So I bought my first house at 24 years old.
So you have more?
No. Oh my gosh. I say first house because I'm just manifesting to get more. But yeah, I bought my house at 24 years old. And for me, it was such a big milestone, which I can honestly say right now, the process was way more exciting than the getting the keys bit, I promise you, which is the thing with achievements, right? When you achieve them, you're like, so now what's next? What am I gonna do with this empty house? So for me, I wanted to like invest from a really young age. And I'm someone who I'm very like, I like money. Who doesn't? And property at the time was something that I had been looking at, and I said to myself, I really, really want to buy a house. And I didn't know why or what I'd use it for, but I knew that it would be a good investment because I'm seeing people buy houses, it goes up in value, and they sell it and they get cash and they just rinse and repeat. And that's what I did. I told myself at 18 that I would be working like odd jobs and stuff to kind of sustain myself. So in uni, so when I left my mum's house, I became essentially financially independent. My school fees were paid by the government, which is standard in the UK, but the living costs were kind of up to me to figure it out. So I used to do a lot of kind of part-time jobs here and there. And I saved. And then when I got my first salary, I saved that for about 5 months. And then I had enough money for a deposit. So in the UK, you can put down a 10% deposit to buy property. So if it's £100,000, you can put down £10,000, which in the grand scheme of things is relatively straightforward to save for. It's just a matter of how much are you willing to put aside each month, which is why I will never knock anyone for staying at home to save up for a house, right? Because then you can save up as much as possible to then invest in that property. But I was quite lucky where I put aside so much money during university that by the time I started my full-time job, I had a good like lump sum for my deposit. So I lived in a rental for only about 5 months, and then I completed in the March. I remember I was turning 25 that year, and I completed the March before my birthday, which was September. And also the place where I bought was super affordable. So where Rolls-Royce was based was in the middle of England, and the further you move away from London, the more affordable it gets to live in the UK, naturally. So house prices there were not ridiculous. They weren't like crazy high. They were quite attainable. But I do remember my lenders looking at me like, so you're a single black female putting down a deposit all by yourself. Is there no other like applicants? I'm like, nope. Just me and my job. And it was a major milestone for me, I think. And I think the first time I'd ever seen, other than my degree, the first time I'd ever seen my effort in a physical thing, right? Because we all work so hard, but sometimes it doesn't equate into something you can like touch. It was a huge milestone, and my first ever I can do it. I can put my mind to something and I can actually do it.
Yeah, that's quite a big milestone. Are you able to tell us about what the ROI has been so far?
Definitely. So my house has gone up by about £40,000 since I bought it 4 years ago. I know that because I had it valuated right before I left to come to Kenya. And I'm assuming it went up by just a little bit more. And that is just cash. That's equity. So I saw my house as think of it as a really good bank account where you can park your savings in it, leave it, and it just goes up in value, right? Similar to how with a business, you take a business, you grow the revenues, you blow up the valuation and then you sell it at the high valuation. Property is the exact same concept as that. And then I also had the benefit of living in the house when I moved to Derby. Whilst everyone else was like scrambling, looking for houses to live in, I was comfortable. Okay, not too comfortable. It was an empty house. Furnishing was very, very expensive, but it was mine. And I knew every month that I put money into my mortgage, it would go towards something that was mine. I had a principal and interest mortgage, so I was paying off a lot of interest, obviously, and then principal, which is the value of the house going down each month.
What's the mortgage rate in the UK, or rather what rate did you get? I'm curious.
So I was so lucky. I bought off the back of the pandemic, so I got 2%.
What?
Yeah,
that's free. That's literally
basically free money. Yeah, so I got 2%. You do remortgage, and the mortgage does go up. So right now I'm sitting on 4%. But that's because back then the base rate, the Bank of England base rate was 0%. After pandemic, they were like, no one is spending. Disaster. We need to generate the economy again. We can only do that by making the cost of borrowing like on the floor. We're going to slash all the interest rates. If you had a bit of money stored up, which I did, you bought a house for super, super cheap. So I got my initial at 2%. And I think the difference between mortgages in Kenya and mortgages in the UK is there's different types of mortgages. There's the fixed rate, where I can lock in a rate and I can pick how long to lock it in for. 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Even though the mortgage length might be 25 years or maybe 30 years, I keep renewing my contract every so often to reflect the current economy. So what is the current interest rate? Because you can imagine if I locked in for 2% and I'm still paying 2%, the bank is losing money. Because the base rate right now is 3.75. I track these things, by the way. I'm very nerdy when it comes to money.
But that's an excellent deal.
Oh yeah, it was fantastic. Property is always that thing that it's going to go up. It might take a while, but it's going to go up. And I always say, don't try and time the market. It's the time you spend in the market that you're going to get the most. So don't be like, I want to wait. Don't time it. The longer you're in the market, the more it starts to compound, and compound effects start to kick.
Thank you for tuning into this episode. Let's take a minute to please listen to a word from our sponsors. Our lovely hosts today are the Sarova Hotel Group, and in specific, their New Stanley and Pan-Afric locations. New Stanley has a variety of services that you can enjoy, from their exchange bar, which has a beautiful setting to get work done quietly or enjoy post-work drinks. They have a beautiful cocktail offer on Wednesday evenings. They also have an executive lounge where you can host meetings in their boardroom or entertain. They also have beautiful rooms that you can stay in, such as their presidential suite and the Lamu suite. How pretty. How can I forget about the Valley? That's my favorite part about it, given that it's in CBD. Pan-Afric is nestled in Upper Hill, which has a gorgeous suite for that staycation to help you reset. Let's be honest, as founders and business owners, we're constantly overworking and could honestly always use that break. Now, what's unique about Pan-Afric is that they also have a wing that's entirely dedicated just for women and has beautiful feminine touches to make you feel even more at home. You can also enjoy services from their wellness center, such as the spa, gym, and pool. I have to add that the hospitality is truly unmatched, so the next time you need to book an in-city getaway or host a meeting, think of Sarova. So now I'm curious to hear about your journey to moving to Kenya, because you're living in the UK. So when did you move? What was that final push of, okay, you know what, I'm buying this ticket? I want to hear more about that journey.
Definitely. It was a crazy time for me. I was kind of full-time in my role as an engineer, and it was really, really good. However, I had an itch. I always call it the itch. I had an itch, and it was an itch that I've had quite a few times, of wanting to do my own thing or to lead my own thing. And I had so I was a technical engineer, but I had taken up a couple of graduate placements in the business side of things. So I was very interested in not just producing the product, but I want to know the economics of how this huge conglomerate exists, right? I am building this tiny little component that's part of this massive other structure, but then how are they selling that structure? What does that look like? Because as a company, we had gone through so many restructures where people move departments and they do lots of like cost saving measures and stuff. But you never really get to understand the decisions behind this because it happens in a C-suite board with men sat around a table shouting at each other. And I was like, I want to be in that room. I want to like know, why am I waking up every day to make this small component? And I kind of clocked on that it wasn't an itch that was going to go away. So at the time I had, where was I in my career? Yeah, so I had a decision to make. It was either I go into like a more business related job, let's say as a consultant, for example, or I continue kind of in the career trajectory of Rolls-Royce, like climbing the ranks, or I can move completely and just start something of my own. And me being me, the engineer that I am, I was like, I think I should do an MBA to learn about running a business before I then go and run this business.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, I'm like, I'm so glad I did not do an MBA. And it's because the only way you're going to learn how to start a business is to right? You can read all the books you want, you can have all the theory that you want, but nothing teaches you better than experience. And I also think that when you do start a business, a lot of the concepts then start to make sense because you can apply them to something, which is why MBA students do internships within big companies, right? They do like maybe 6 to 8 months working as a consultant during their MBA because experience is literally the best teacher. So I had an opportunity to apply for a scholarship to do an MBA in the US. And I was just like, you know what? I see where I'm going to go with. I'm going to go to the US, do this MBA, and then come back and go back to corporate. So it's going to be the same cycle, the same issue, just painted a different color. And I said, I don't want to go through that process of, should I leave now? Because by that point, let's say I've progressed, I'm earning a lot of money, I have a fancy lifestyle, I'm married, I've got kids. I'll be very unlikely to wake up and leave everything, the more ties I have. And at that point, I had the least amount of ties that kept me, other than my house. I was single, not married, no kids, and I was pretty comfortable as well. I had after I bought my house, I like replenished my savings again. So when I met my co-founder and he was like, hey, I want to build this thing that's really interesting. And I was like, oh, okay, tell me more about it. And then I explored it whilst I was working at Rolls-Royce. We would kind of do a bit of research together about the kinds of customers we would like to work with, etc. And then when it came to the investment side of things, because it is it's a VC, so it's a high growth startup. You raise VC money. A lot of the VCs that we kind of reached out to initially were like, this is great, but Michelle is still in the UK and just telling us your customers are in Kenya, and we won't commit if you won't commit. So you have to make that commitment to show to us that you're committed to the business when you start running the business. So then we said to ourselves, okay, cool, this requires me to actually like move to Kenya. So it was like a plan in motion from January 2024. And then February came, I was like, another month. March came, another month. April came, another month. And at some point I was thinking like, I'm just not going to move. I'm actually okay in the UK. But I think the thing that triggered me the most was seeing, so in big corporates, your career trajectory is kind of almost planned for you. Like they have this like metric they measure you on productivity, and like there's lots of like quizzes that you do to see how productive you are as like an employee, etc. And I was just like, wow, I do not want to be part of this anymore. I don't want to be a part of this anymore. I had an amazing like stint as an engineer. I learned so much, and I want to take that knowledge and build it in a business. I looked at the business scene in the UK, and pretty honest, it looked pretty bleak to me. There wasn't anything interesting in the UK that I wanted to work on. And for me, it had to be something interesting. Like it had to be something that I didn't know much about so that I could learn, because I love to learn. And so Alex gave me this issue. He was like, hey, Michelle, these businesses don't have data. They need data. They're willing to pay for it. But this is the mountain we need to climb. So he pitched to me and I was like, I like this kind of problem. I can really sink my teeth into it.
How did you guys meet?
Interesting enough, we met on LinkedIn. I know, funny story. So 2 years before I moved, I already had the itch and I was exploring running a business now in the UK. This is when I was a graduate. And I was thinking, okay, maybe like 5 or 10 years down the line, after I've done my like time in Rolls-Royce, I can venture into a business. Let me start making some networks. And I said, I want to talk to founders And personally, LinkedIn for me has been literally the everything in my career. It helped me get my internship at Rolls-Royce. It helped me get my graduate job. It helped me meet my co-founder. And I'm someone who, when I see someone interesting, I might just DM them. I might just send them a DM. And even if they think I'm weird, what's the worst that could happen? So I was speaking to a couple of founders in the UK, and then Alex popped up because he had actually done a bit of time in Cambridge University. So his name just appeared, and it just so happened that he was based in Nairobi. He was running his previous business, Nanasi. Reached out to him, and I was like, hey, I'm running founder interviews to learn more about what you did because I want to do something similar. Could I please have 30 minutes of your time? He gave me 15 minutes of his time. He gave me 15 minutes of his time. And at the time, he was proper deep into Nanasi, about the challenges he was facing running Nanasi and so on. And after that interview, we kind of just kept in touch. And it reached a point where he reached out to me one day and was like, hey, I want to trial this new product of making POS orders via barcodes. And I want to see whether that will be a hit in the Kenyan market. What do you think about it? So we did a couple of focus groups together on the weekends, and it was super interesting. It was super cool to hear about what he was building. But obviously I had no risk at this point. I was just there for vibes.
An observer.
I was an observer. I was like, this is amazing. And then when Nanasi pivoted into Duck because the kind of customers Alex was serving with this point of sale system, and from top of mind, he was essentially helping these businesses manage how they do business, like restaurants and stuff, like how they manage their inventory, how they collect payments, etc. But then the businesses used to turn around to him and say to him, hey, this management system is amazing, but I'm more interested into how can I increase my sales? Because it's always going to be money at the end of the day. They kept asking him, how do I, optimize my happy hour? How do I package my meals so that people are more interested in buying my product? So in his head, he was like, okay, these are really good questions, but it would require me to go into your data. And that's when the data play came about, where he was like, there's so many management systems available for them. They could be with, have you heard of Square? Mm-hmm. They could be with Square or Shopify or whatever. So he was competing in a saturated market, and these customers just kept telling him, I want to know how to increase my revenue with the information that I have. So then he was like, oh, okay, sounds like you need to look into your data. But that in itself is a different value proposition. And if he had taken that on as part of Nanasi, that would have been a huge struggle. You can imagine trying to stretch that budget. So he kind of made the decision of, actually, I need to do this as a standalone business. And a lot of founders reach that point. They're like, do I pivot or do I sink? Am I fond of my initial pain point, which actually might not be as painful because we always have our biases as founders? Or am I able to accept the truth that what I built wasn't what the market wanted, and can I now build what the market wants? So he went back into the market and found that this pain point was felt by a lot of businesses. But then as a business owner, you're going to pick the customer who pays you the most to solve this problem, naturally speaking. You become rich by solving a rich man's problem, I'd like to say. So for us, it was, enterprises are also facing this issue. What if we had conversations with them? And we did. LinkedIn. I had my best acquisition rate, LinkedIn cold DMs. I promise you, just shamelessly just DMing people. And I always say, what's the word? They could just say no. And then, did I die? No. But that one person that says yes just opens up the floor to lots of other opportunities. So on weekends, I would literally be just spamming people on LinkedIn, hey, I'm solving this issue. I'd love to have 10 minutes of your time to talk about it, to find out more about how you've experienced it. And from that, I got responses from some of the biggest manufacturers. I would DM CEOs, CTOs, CCOs, etc., or business managers or department heads. And out of let's say 50, 3 or 4 of them would respond. But once they responded, the ball then you start building that momentum. And yeah, that's literally how Duck was birthed. Yeah.
Thank you for tuning into this episode. Let's take a minute to please listen to a word from our sponsors. Hands up if you're a business owner who heard about the Teams mandate last year and you were either confused by it, or didn't quite understand it, are hoping it doesn't affect you or that it's going to go away. Unfortunately, it's not going away and eTeams is here to stay. So eTeams is basically an invoicing system, electronic, that allows Carrie to kind of be in touch with your income as you bring it in and also your expenses as they're being brought up against you. Now, it's important that you have this in place because that's the only way you're going to be able to file your taxes, because now the system will simply auto-populate. It sounds like a lot, I know, but this is where DigiTax comes in. DigiTax is basically a service that allows you to be able to raise your eTeams invoices in an easy, much more seamless way. And the best part is they can integrate with an existing platform that you're already using, like UserPoint or Odoo. There's quite a number that we list in the description box. That way, when you're making your sales, you don't have to separately go in and log an eTeams invoice. It's extremely important that you stay compliant because otherwise it's going to cost you money. Go to digitax.tech to book a demo and look at how the whole thing works. And it's only 10,000 bob per year for an user's profile, and you can have multiple accounts under one. You're welcome. There's a lot of how can I put it, hesitation or resistance or fear that can come with building a business with someone else, especially someone you met on LinkedIn. You don't know them. So I'm really curious to hear what was kind of like your thinking or rationale behind, okay, so I'm going to business with this person. Did you have any hesitation? Did you do any due diligence? Like, I'm just curious to hear what the process was like before now, being put on this year 12 now as also as a director.
Definitely. I hope Alex watches this. I won't lie to you, to enter the business world, I feel you have to have a certain level of insanity. You have to be delusional. You have to trust that the universe works in your favor. And the day you stop trusting that, the universe will just be like, yep, nothing to do with me, and so on. So a lot of faith, number one, was my biggest. Like, I prayed about it. I was like, God, is this where you want me to go? And because it was something that was pulling on my heart quite a while, it kind of felt like an answered prayer. Where there was someone who had this really interesting idea and they themselves had been through that process. So looking at someone's CV in terms of have they built something before, how did they go around it, and seeing that resilience, I think that resilience is huge, because what I find with a lot of co-founders is you always have one that's just a little bit more invested than the other, which means when things go wrong, someone's going to jump ship. That person who was just not as invested. And I kind of saw that commitment from Alex of how he had, I think at that point, and I think it was his third business at that point. He's been an entrepreneur since he was 19. And for him, it was failure, stand up, try again. Failure, stand up, try again. And I said to myself, if I was to fail with this person, could we still build something else? And the answer was yes. Right. The answer was yes, because he was so committed to building a business to help African business owners. And he did it in so many different ways through so many different ventures. And each time he failed, he was like, okay, I'm going to pivot. I'm going to try again, as opposed to now internalizing it and saying I am the problem. It was more so of, I didn't have that experience, but now I do. So how can I do something better? And I think attitude plays biggest, because business is brutal. It is hard. A lot of the time you're fighting against your own internal voices saying you're not good enough, you're not qualified to do this, you've not gotten all these degrees and papers to say that you're qualified to do this. But at the end of the day, the person that gets it right fails the most. Right? They fail, like, I always call it a probability game. It's you need to fail so many times for that one time the stars literally align and then you get it right. So if you give up halfway through, or even one venture before the venture that makes you a millionaire, billionaire, sis, you will, like any entrepreneur, they are here because of the amount of times that they just tried and tried and tried and tried. And seeing that in him, and even like spending time with him, you can tell he's been burned. You can tell he's been through it. And the fact that he's still here building, I was just like, wow, this is someone who it's more than the pain point. It's more than the customers. It's someone who's committed to fixing a problem in the world themselves. And that commitment for me was like if I had a checklist, that commitment was like top of the list. And a lot of people would normally just give up. They'd be like, this isn't working. I'm struggling to pay rent this month. Let me just go back to what I was doing. And I don't blame them. But the very few that end up making it are the ones that have that, that resilience, that grit. So yeah, I kind of recognized that in him.
Yeah. I saw something on Instagram yesterday, and it was like a picture and then text on top, and says, I will make money because I am insane. And I was like,
literally, you have to be crazy.
So I read somewhere that Duck has its eyes set on the UAE as well.
Oh wow, you really done your digging.
Is that true? First of all, so I'm curious to hear what it takes to set your sights on international borders, because I think a lot of us are cultured to build for the market we know and what we understand. So what has it meant, say, okay, we're going to the UAE, what has that meant from a practical perspective, maybe from a financial perspective, but then also I'm curious about the compliance part. Every time I think about like even just going to Uganda, I'm like,
the headache.
I already deal with Clary, I don't deal with ULA as well. So I'm curious to also hear the governance and the compliance aspect of things.
Wow, you've not actually announced that at all. I was hoping I could just slip out and come back in.
So can we air it or
no, it's okay. I'll like touch upon it. I'll touch upon it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this was an opportunity that came to us via some investors that were based in the UAE.
Okay.
So we have raised money as a startup. Our investors are, first of all, they're in the US, and we took part in an accelerator a year ago, and the accelerator required us to be in and out of the US. So the way our entity is, and the way most startups are, is you have a holding company in a more tax-friendly jurisdiction. And in this case, it's in Delaware. That's a very common kind of setup. And then your Delaware entity owns your operation, your OpCo. So if your holdco, holding company, and your OpCo, your operating company company is the entity in Kenya in this case. So from a very early stage, when you work with entrepreneurs where you're an African solving a global problem as opposed to just an African problem, right? But you take your experiences solving an African problem and you take them out into the world, because there's so many nuances. I always say, if you can fix something in Kenya, you can fix something anywhere. Because the kind of resilience it takes for you to fix something in Kenya, oh gosh, that level of tenacity and I really want to fix this, you can take it to anywhere in the world. And because I've been lucky where I was moving continents, I moved continents. Alex has also traveled quite a bit. He went to school in Mauritius as well. And in school, he was with a lot of other entrepreneurs who have built companies globally. And the one thing that venture capitalists always ask you is, how big is your market? And it's called your TAM, which is your total addressable market. And most times, Kenya is not that big as a market in terms of how much each person can actually spend on said product. Your product better be water. It better be a necessity for you to actually be making the VC type of returns, because they want to cash out when your company is worth $100 million, which is in the billions in shillings. How many companies do you know in Kenya that are valuated at that much, right? And in Africa as a whole, there's only about 9 unicorns, which is companies that are valuated above $9 billion. But that's what VCs want, because we're crazy, they're crazy, right? We're crazy builders, they're crazy investors. That's why we're in bed together. And when you ask yourself, okay, Kenya, how many retailers are there in Kenya? Major retailers, maybe 4 or 5 tier 1s, and the rest are tier 2s, 3s, and 4s. Let's say tops 200 or 300. How many suppliers or manufacturers? Maybe 5,000 or 6,000. And then when you multiply how much you charge each one, you can probably make a revenue in the tens of millions, but they want you to make it in the hundreds of millions. So then you have to answer the question to them of, what other markets in Africa are you going to hit? Or even globally are you going to hit? Are you going to go to South Africa? Are you going to go to West Africa? Are you going to go to North Africa? So you have to start thinking about those numbers very early on, because that's what VCs expect you to think of, which is, can I solve this problem on a global scale to hit their numbers? Because like the GDP per capita of Kenya is not a lot. Living in Nairobi, it's very hard to forget that most of Kenya actually lives like outside of Nairobi, and most of Kenya doesn't earn that much money. So you get quite limited, like there's a ceiling you hit. But then now if you start adding up Rwanda, Tanzania, Uganda, plus South Africa, plus maybe Nigeria, Uganda, then you start moving like a big boy, as I like to say. Your revenues then jump up from maybe a couple of million Kenya shillings or 10 million, 20, 30 to now hundreds of millions. So the UAE came up as an amazing opportunity for us to venture out into a new market and speak to customers about the same pain point that Kenyan customers were facing. And also we noticed that a lot of manufacturers that move product in Kenya are based in the UAE. Carrefour's headquarters is Dubai.
Yeah.
Right. And if you go into Carrefour, you can see lots of different kind of Arabic looking products and stuff. So we said, okay, what if we went there and asked them the same question, which is, do you have this problem? Would you be okay for us to try and help you solve it? Different market, different ways of working. And I'm actually headed off there on Sunday. Yeah.
Okay. Or you're not yet there at the point of like, now we actually need to run this company in this country. This is how we need to be set up from a legal perspective, from a compliance perspective. So I guess you'll tell us about the journey as you
Definitely. We're getting a lot of support from our investors.
Yeah.
So our investors are actually a leg of the UAE government. So they are essentially talking to different startups across the world and bringing them back into their jurisdiction because they want to also generate wealth. Like who doesn't?
But also more taxes for them.
There's zero tax in UAE.
What, zero?
There's zero tax. Zero.
How does the government run?
On oil. Can I say that? They pay zero. The amount of people that have moved from England itself to the UAE. I think one of the biggest banks in the UK moved their HQ to Dubai. The amount of people that have moved to Dubai or Abu Dhabi, zero income tax. I feel like people in the UAE are like, oh, okay, it's a small desert. There's not many of us. We want to attract. And that's how you attract business, by making it business friendly, not like putting crazy taxes and making it hard to work. Little things like 0% income tax.
Tell the fool who need to hear this. So now we have a segment called Technically, where I want to get an actual deep dive on how you actually do some specific things in your business. So the first one is, what's one thing you must do every day or weekly for the business?
Can it be something silly?
Yeah.
Okay, my emails. I live off my emails and I always schedule them in advance. So I never bet myself on sending out emails at 8 or 9 or 10. I schedule them in the night before I sleep for like 8 o'clock so that it's the first in someone's inbox when they get to the office. Because I have a very bad habit of flagging and then never going back. And then I have like 100 flagged emails. So I said that business has to stop now. I need to, as soon as I see an email, even if it's at midnight or 1 a.m. There are some times though, instead of schedule, I press send, and they probably think I think I sent an email to the Office of Data Protection at 2 a.m. in the morning. I bet they probably thought, who is this woman? Why is she emailing us at this time of the morning? So scheduling out my emails that are important end of day as my final like close off task.
What's one thing you wish more people paid attention to?
I would probably say, and I think I did like a little series about this, it's kind of measuring. Okay, so I did a little segment on cost of acquisition. I think we spoke a little bit about it, which is how much is it costing you to get one customer, right? And how much is it then going to cost you to get 100 or 200 or 300? And then once you get this customer, are they coming back to you? Meaning that money you spent on marketing, on fuel to go there, or on a promotion, etc. I see a lot of business owners doing promotions for the fun of it. And by the fun of it, I mean in their head, it's, if I put a promotion, someone's going to buy because it's cheaper. That person would have probably bought from you anyway. 50% of customers actually just buy anyway, right? So already you've lost like 50%. Some other people, so 50% would buy it anyway. About 30% are waiting for promotions, which is not who you're targeting. They are going to be there just for promotions. When you're full price, they're not going to be interested in you. They're going to switch. Then that 20% is who you're trying to capture, which is someone who sees a promotion, sees it as, this seems like a good value. How do you reach that person, and how much is it going to cost you? And that's what you should be measuring, not your sellout data, which is, I sold 200 units on promotion. That's more than the 100 I normally sell. Was it to the right people? did you just give away free money?
Yeah.
So yeah, measuring how much it costs to get.
So you need to look at how many new customers that promotion actually attracted.
Exactly my point.
And then divide that number by the cost of the promotion.
Oh yeah, literally. And that cost is, don't downplay that cost, because if you do, you're not getting the actual picture of that one customer might be costing you like 1,000 shillings. That's actually very expensive to acquire customers. And if you want to scale that business, you're going to use that metric to then say, I'm going to do a new store. I'm going to put this much marketing budget because I know it cost me maybe 5M to get my first 500 customers. Therefore, maybe I put 2.5M and I know I'm going to get 50 or half of that figure, etc. So it's a very like math based.
Yeah, I like that. I have homework to do after. How often do you guys do like your finance meeting? Like when you sit down and you look at the books, and what are some decisions you've made recently based off of what came out from that data?
Definitely. So we do our finances quite regularly. I say that because I am the COO. And I think for us, I won't lie to you, because of the business model that high growth startups have, it's less about your margin, because we are at a stage in the VC world we call pre-seed, which is the ideation stage, aka what I'm doing today is probably not what's going to scale. Right? I'm still testing experiments. So I run in this very particular way, which is I treat every business decision I make as an experiment, and I put a budget to it. And then I have key growth levers that I measure. One of them is my customer acquisition cost. How much is it costing me to get each customer? My LTV, my lifetime value, which is how much can I make ideally once I acquire, how much they're going to spend in their lifetime with me before switching over to another customer. All right. So those are things that I measure that are separate to the amount that I spend, which is the difference between kind of a traditional profit margin business versus a software business, because my VCs are willing to invest in me figuring out the best. Think of it as a problem statement and then the best solution, which is, these are my target customers because I tried 10 segments and this was the segment that got me my best ROI. This is the segment that showed me my lowest churn. And also this is the setup of engineers that I need. I hire and fire engineers depending on, first of all, whether like we jam, obviously, and then also how long it takes for them to understand the problem that I'm trying to solve and how quickly they can pivot alongside me, and also how willing they are to pivot. If I run an experiment on inventory and my engineer knows the inventory system, so if I do inventory, then I change to I want to do a loyalty card system, I expect them to like pick up that information as I'm picking it up. But if there's resistance, then they're not the right fit for a startup. Maybe they're a right fit for a business that has like repeatable ways of doing things, but I'm still experimenting. So that's how we do like our finances. I spent $5,000 in this experiment. What did I get out of it? I don't need to have pulled a profit. It's not the profit that I want, actually. It's how sticky was that solution? Was the like how many people signed up to that compared to the last solution that I did? And that's what you bet on very, very early. Where if I now spend $500,000, I wouldn't just be getting 100x, I'll be getting 1,000x. So then you start moving in the exponential kind of growth. Yeah,
such an engineering way of thinking about it. It really is.
I'm just nerding out here. Probably like, what is she on about? No, me and numbers 1 and 2.
On the numbers segment, still, when did you first start paying yourself from this business consistently?
Yeah.
And did you notice anything change once you did? Like you get a salary when everyone else gets a salary.
Yes and no. So I took a huge like pay cut when I moved from engineering into Duck. I pay myself like a modest amount that allows me to cover my living expenses. Investors don't like it when you don't pay yourself. In fact, they really don't like it because you are hiding the actual cost of running that business. And if you're hiding that cost, like clearly the business model is not as strong as you think it is.
Yeah.
So I know it's like, but sometimes we can't afford, which is fine. If you're bootstrapped, like in my family, we have a family owned business and that's purely bootstrapped. And when I see my parents running it and they don't pay themselves, and I understand why, because it's their own money that they're reinvesting. But when you are going out to a VC and asking them for $100,000, $200,000, a big aspect of that is you paying yourself, because if you don't pay yourself, you're going to lose sleep over your rent and your food, which means you're not going to be focused on building the business. And they are betting on you building the biggest business with the biggest returns.
Or you make decisions based on survival.
Exactly. Yeah. You make decisions based on short-term gains, when the whole point of VC is forget the short-term gains. I want the long-term gains in big figures. So if I as a VC can actually, like, if you can manage it where you pay yourself a livable salary, where you don't have to worry about the basics, and you're going to focus more on running the business. Yes. Yeah. Here's the money.
Yeah. So you started straight off the bat?
With VC money?
No, like paying yourself.
Pay myself. Oh, yeah, we did. So it was, call it a founder stipend. Yeah. Let's call it that. As a salary, like, it's not a lot of money. Yeah. Like, it's not a lot of money, but yeah, like, when I'm an employee, I pay I get my salary every month, allows me to pay my bills and so on. Yeah.
Okay. So I was asking, you told us about how your real estate investments and how that's important to you, your house in the UK. I'm curious to hear what are other places you're investing your money as Michelle. Tell us about that.
That is such an interesting question, because I've only thought about that in the most recent years. So I think for me, luckily my family have a few kind of businesses that they have. So I've kind of been like an angel investor, like dropping my money into it, knowing that down the line that business would be worth a lot more. And I always tell people, like, if you're going to invest in business, just know how to cash out from it. Otherwise, your money's always going to be locked up. I kind of tapped out to the whole traditional savings kind of thing, which sounds a bit crazy, because back in the day, I used to count every penny that I was spending, and I'd be like, this is going in my savings, this is going in stocks, this is going in this, etc. And my honest to God opinion is I put a lot of that money back into myself. I put a lot of that money back into myself in running different types of businesses. So a couple of businesses that I've thought about running / I've started is like consultancies, supporting small and medium-sized businesses when it comes to data, understanding their data, etc. What does that look like if I scale it? Could I scale it hands off? Buying more property as well and seeing that value rise.
Here in the UK?
Bit of both, actually. Okay. So I was exploring kind of what does that look like if I do it in Kenya. The Kenyan market is so different when it comes to property. You can't just get a mortgage and flip the property, because the interest rate in Kenya, you end up paying double for that house. So whatever gains the house makes gets written off as soon as you pay off the interest, right? So Kenya is more kind of high interest, which means you need to be a lot more liquid as well. Again, it's okay, how do I fund that liquidity? Is it through other businesses? What other services can I provide? And I love our culture as Kenyans, like, we're such hustlers. Like, there's always something that we're doing that's non-related to the main business, but it's giving us that extra bit of cash. And then I think the next step I always say is, the extra bit of cash is nice, but how do you scale that where you as a founder, like, it's not a founder-led entity, right? I see
it can keep running if you're, in a coma or something.
Right. I always ask founders, like, if you disappeared for 6 months, would that business tank? Because everyone is buying because it's you. Because I'm seeing a lot of kind of like social media personality types businesses like yourself. Even myself, I was like, oh, okay, let me see if I can put my face to it, etc. But I also look at other examples out there. Like when I look at the Grace Beverleys and the Ben Francises, etc., it's how do you move from being the face to a system that works, that operates without you being there, where all you're doing as a founder is just generating leads. Yeah, that is your main job, is to go and hunt for the business. Other than that, it runs like a ship. It just does its own thing. It sustains itself. Because I then also, like, you want to free up your time. Like, why are we working so hard if it's not to just like live a soft life? Like, I'm a soft babe, and I was like, that whole corporate thing is not really giving. Business is harder, but I'm doing it because I know I can put way more effort, get a bigger reward, and claim back so much more of my time, where retirement age is like 60 something. I plan to retire, God willing, may the universe hear me, by 40, 45 or something, raise my kids, go travel, but at the same time have those entities, have those businesses that are making that passive income. Not completely passive, but in a way where I'm not having to think about, oh my God, there's a fire, no one knows what to do, I'm the only one that can get this business out of this. Because then I think you're just a very underpaid employee at that point.
Self-employed.
Right, you're literally just an employee and you're not even paying yourself that much. You might as well go back to corporate.
Yeah.
You get more money and less stress. So finding something that works, repeating it, and then generating money off it is my way of investing, essentially. Yeah.
Okay. So for our last quick fire round, so you answer in a sentence or less. What is the last thing you did for fun?
Oh, I went out for dinner. It sounds really like not fun. I went out for dinner on Saturday, which was really nice. Got to dress up. I bought some like new makeup items. I was like, I want to try out this new method of beating my face, which I did. That was cute. I like dressing up for my food. It's fun as a girl.
One thing you struggle with that you wish more people talked about?
Accepting when you can't do something, accepting that it's not your strength, and that in itself is knowing it is a strength. Right. And also, like, I find that people don't really like talking about their failures in Kenya. Like, it's like, oh, I did this. No one wants to ever talk about when they do something wrong or ask for help. And I'm the biggest person to ask you, what went wrong? Where did you fail? And I come from a position of, I want to learn from it. And also, like, failure is something that we talk about a lot in the UK. When I worked in corporate, we called it lessons learned, which is basically you messed up.
Yeah.
But you need to now write a whole document as to where exactly you messed up so that the next team doesn't mess up like you've messed up. So I think here, it's just the openness of talking about what went wrong with other people so that you learn actually from talking about it and getting over it, and they also learn as well.
Yeah. I think the guy for Diaries, Stephen Bartlett, he has a whole department whose job is to experiment, and they're assessed based on how much they fail. It's not how much you succeed, but the more failures you have, like, the better that you're doing. Literally. So I think it really speaks to that. If you had the ability to make a universal law everyone must follow, what would that be?
Oh, that's such a good question. A universal law?
The whole world.
Can it be like really random?
Yeah.
I think everyone should shower every day. And
Valid.
Hygiene. Very big on the hygiene. Yeah.
Okay. When is the last time you took a day off?
I want to say in December. So I lost a family member, a really close family member of mine. So I kind of took some time off to just kind of reset. And obviously the Kenyan funeral burying process is it's a job in itself. So I was like focused more on that than I was kind of the business. So technically speaking, I did take a bit of time off.
Yeah. But have you built in time off into like your regular calendar, or it's like we'll take it if and when we can?
Unfortunately, we'll take it if and when as we come. Unpopular opinion, I don't believe in work-life balance. And I mean that in the most positive way. There are some people who are just, my life is to plug in. Like, I am someone who, when I'm not working, I get sad. I actually get really sad. I'm like, what? I'm not doing anything. What's going on? And I don't like it when people try to like negate that and make it seem as if there's something wrong with me. Some people just do work hard, and if you love what you do, I know it sounds so cliche, but I promise you, when you're that passionate about getting something to work, there's not much that can really stop you. But I do believe in also listening to your body. Like, my body tells me when it's tired. Like, some days I wake up, I'm like, you see that gym? It's not seeing you today. I need like a few days off or a few weeks off. So listening to my body as well has been what's kind of allowed me to maintain some sort of like sanity.
Yeah. Okay. And last question. What is a question you would leave for the next guest to answer?
Oh, it would be, what has been your biggest failure? I want to know.
Naturally.
I want to know. Let's talk about it. Yeah. There should be a whole podcast on failures, by the way.
Good
but
idea.
In a really positive way, like in a, what did we learn from this and what can we take from this? I actually meet up with a lot of founders that have ran something that I ran, but they don't anymore. And I get them to talk about it.
Yeah. Like
and
why? Yeah.
What happened.
Make that a podcast.
I hate this.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on to our podcast. Please make sure that you subscribe, comment, share this with someone, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye.